The desert night had an ancient silence that pressed down on the bones of the earth, a silence older than any man could recall. Beneath the pale crescent moon, a small caravan wound its way toward the ruins of a forgotten city, swallowed long ago by shifting sands and dark stories. The travelers were desperate, driven by rumors of a hidden library buried beneath those ruins, a place where knowledge, older than the kings themselves, awaited those daring enough to seek it. Among the travelers was Amun, a scholar whose obsession with forbidden lore had cost him friends and sanity. His eyes gleamed with a fevered light as it studied the cracked map that led him here, drawn by the promise of secrets whispered in broken tongues. His guide, Rahim, was an old man who had seen too many suns and moons. His face weathered and lined with warnings. Rahim did not speak of the city's treasures. Instead, he spoke of the curse, the shadow that stalked beneath its broken walls. As the caravan came to rest beneath the shattered arches, Rahim's voice dropped to a whisper. This place once housed a temple to Labasu, he said. Eyes darted into the darkness. A creature born of vengeance and ruin, half beast, half spirit, whose hunger devours those who dare to steal the secrets of the gods. Amun scoffed, his voice sharp and impatient. Old stories of frightened children are for frightened children. The only spirits here are the ghosts of time. But as the fire crackled and the night deepened, an oppressive presence settled over the ruins. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of dust and decay, and a low growl rumbled beneath the earth, vibrating through stone and bone alike. From the shadows beyond the flickering light, two eyes ignited like embers in the dark. The travelers stiffened, breath caught in their throats. A massive figure emerged, its shape shifting and flickering like a mirage. It was Labasu, its lion's face twisted in a snarl, claws like scythes scraping the ground. It moved silently, a predator from nightmares, and its gaze fixed on Amun. You come here seeking knowledge. The creature's voice was a rasp that scraped the air. But knowledge is dead. Your soul will pay the price. Amun reached for his talisman, chanting the ancient words he had memorized. The air shimmered as he traced sigils of protection. But the Basu laughed, a sound like metal tearing. It lunged forward, and the fire roared higher, swallowing the scholar's desperate cries. When dawn painted the sky with pale light, only Rahim remained by the ashes. His eyes were hollow, reflecting the shadow that had claimed his companion. The sun crept over the horizon, casting long fingers of gold and red over the ancient stones. What had once been a temple to forgotten gods now lay broken and dry, bleached by centuries of bleached by centuries and scored by the wind. Rahim stood alone among the ruins, clutching the scorched remains of Amun's satchel. Within it was the only thing untouched by the fire, an obsidian seal carved with glyphs no scholar could read. He stared at it, remembering the warning his grandfather, who once told him never to enter the Valley of Silence, where Labasu's temple slept. The creatures do not feed on flesh, the old man had said, but on memory, on identity. Those it claims vanish in more ways than one. Their names are erased, their footsteps are lost. It is as if they never were. Rahim muttered a prayer, but the wind scattered his words into the sand. Around him the air buzzed with something more than heat. The stones of the temple had absorbed too much. They remembered screams. They remembered chants in languages long dead. And now they were remembering again. He turned to leave, to escape before night returned and brought the creature with it. But a voice stopped him. Amun's voice, whispering from the dark passage beneath the ruins. Rahim, I saw it. I saw the library. Rahim froze. The voice was wrong. It was hollow, empty, as if spoken through a broken instrument. He gripped the satchel tighter and backed away, but the whisper came again. There were scrolls, thousands of them, the history of the stars, the words of the dead, and the secret of binding Labasu. I need you to come. I need you to help. Rahim knew the rules. Spirits called from the dark were never what they seemed. The desert had its laws, and those who broke them were swallowed. There's something in that voice. Something in the desperate way it clung to the edge of his thoughts made him hesitate. That night, against his better judgment, he descended into the passage where Amun's voice had come. The air was cold and wet despite the desert heat. Strange symbols lined the walls, pulsing faintly like veins beneath skin. As he walked, he saw shadows flittering just out of reach, and distant chants echoed around corners. He reached a chamber with a cracked floor and an altar of black stone. There, standing in the flickering torchlight, was Amun. His skin was gray, his eyes dull and glossy. He moved like a puppet, each motion jerky and wrong. You came, Amun said, smiling. Now we can finish it. Rahim stepped back. You're not him. Amun's head tilted in an unnatural angle. I am what remains. The Labasu took the rest, but I kept one thing. From his robes he pulled a scroll sealed with wax and bone. This holds the name, the true name, If spoken, it binds him for 100 generations. Help me finish the ritual. Rahim's instincts screamed, but so did the memory of what had been lost. The knowledge buried in the sand, the legacy of the world before this one, and the scroll pulsed with power as if alive. He reached out and took it. Rahim's hands trembled as he broke the seal. The wax crumbled like dry bone, and the scroll unfurled with a sigh, as though the air itself recoiled from what was written. Lines of ink shimmered in the torchlight, twisting letters shaped like claws, wings, and bleeding mouths. These were not words made for human tongues, and yet Rahim could feel their weight pressing on his soul. The not quiet Aman stood silently, watching with vacant eyes from the corner of the chamber. A sound like breathing began to arise, slow and labored. The walls seemed to tighten, closing inward with every second. The air smelled of sulfur and rot. What happens if I speak it? Rahim asked, though he already knew. You will bind him, said the thing in Aman's voice. But you will also wake the others, those who sleep beneath the dunes. This name is not a cage, it is a door. Rahim's eyes darted to the edge of the scroll, where smaller glyphs formed circles in jagged loops. One mark, a coiled serpent with a human face, stood out. He remembered something his grandfather once told him in a fevered dream, just days before the old man died. If ever you find the name, do not speak it whole. Break the pattern. Change the breath between the syllables. That is the only way to survive. Rahim did not know if it was true or madness, but he was out of choices. The whispering was growing louder now, not just from the chamber, but from inside his head. He could feel the weight of other eyes, ancient and patient, gazing up through the earth. He began to speak. The first syllable left his mouth like a knife, slicing through the silence. The torchlight stuttered. The second syllable caused the walls to bleed a fine mist of black liquid. On the third, the ground buckled and the stone altar cracked open, revealing a pit that descended deeper from sight. Something moved in the pit, a shape like a coiled storm, breathing fire and ash. The Labasu, stirred from its ancient chains, rose once again, but as it emerged, it howled, a sound of fury and confusion. Rahim had broken the rhythm, twisted the name just slightly. The binding was incomplete. The creature was not chained, but it was confused. Rahim dropped the scroll and ran. The walls collapsed behind him. The thing that wore Amon's shape screamed and tore at its own flesh as the Labasu surged upwards, its lion's head ablaze with divine hatred. Back above the ground, the night had gone unnaturally quiet. The desert held its breath. Then came the sound of footsteps, soft, deliberate, heavy. Rahim turned to see a new figure at the edge of the ruins. A woman, cloaked in robes of dust and shadow, her face veiled, her eyes were bright as stars, and her voice was older than language. You have disturbed a pact sealed before the world had kings. Who are you? Rahim whispered, falling to his knees. A witness, she said, and now, because of you, the Labasu is free to walk again, unless you do what must be done. She reached into her sleeve and drew out a dagger, carved with a single obsidian thorn. You must become the keeper of the gate. Rahim stared at the obsidian dagger, its edge gleaming like the night sky before a storm. The woman's words weighed on him heavily. To become the keeper of the gate meant a fate worse than death, an endless vigil against the darkness that waited just beyond mortal sight. Yet his heart hammered with a stubborn resolve. He would not let the ancient horror roam freely to consume more lives and memories. The woman, whose name he still did not know, motioned for him to rise. The Labasu is no ordinary beast. It is a shadow of oblivion, hungry not for flesh, but for identity. It feasts on memories, on the essence of those it touches. Each soul it claims fades from the world as if never having been. You must bind it again, but this time with a sacrifice, not of blood, but of self. Rahim swallowed hard. What sacrifice? The sacrifice of your past, your history, your name. You must become the living seal, the one who stands between the realms of the forgotten and the remembered. She led him to the altar now, cracked and bleeding dark liquid that vanished as it touched the sand. From the folds of her robes she produced an ancient tome bound in leather and bone, its pages etched with symbols older than any empire. This is the Codex of Names. Within are the rights to bind the Labasu, but the price is the surrender of your very self. Rahim's mind raced. Could he do such a thing? Could he lose himself so completely that no one would ever know him again? The thought was a terror beyond any monster's claw. Yet as the night deepened, the air grew thick and the air grew thick with whispers. Voices of the lost, the erased, begging for release from eternal darkness. With trembling hands, Rahim took the dagger and the codex. The woman chanted softly, her voice weaving through the ruins like a thread of light. He stepped to the edge of the pit where the Labasu writhed, a mass of shadows and fire, its eyes like burning coals of ancient rage. Rahim plunged the dagger into his own chest. Pain exploded, but he did not cry out. Instead, a luminous light erupted from his wound, flowing upwards, weaving around the creature. The shadow recoiled, screams echoed through the desert air, and the Labasu was drawn back into the pit, bound once more. As the light faded, Rahim felt his memory begin to dissolve. The faces of his family, the laughter of his childhood, the lessons of his youth, all slipping away like grains of sand. The woman watched silently, her eyes reflecting the rising dawn. "You are the gatekeeper now," she said, "neither living nor dead, forever guarding the boundary between worlds. Your story ends here so that others may continue." Rahim looked into the horizon where the first light of morning bathed the land in gold. Though he no longer remembered who he was, a single truth remained burning in his heart. The darkness must never be allowed to rise again. The ruins fell silent once more, holding their secrets beneath the endless desert sky. Years passed, and the ruins where Rahim made his sacrifice became a place whispered about only in fearful tales. Travelers spoke of a shadow that watched from the sands, a silent guardian with eyes like dying embers. Desert wind carried voices, half-heard prayers for protection and warnings to never disturb the forgotten pact again. The woman who had led Rahim vanished into the night, her fate unknown. She was the last remnant of a forgotten cult sworn to keep the balance. Occasionally, on moonless nights, a faint light flickered near the ruins, soft as a candle's breath, yet persistent. Those brave enough to approach found nobody, no sign of life, only the faint echo of a voice whispering in a language that was part prayer, part warning. "Beware the name beneath the sand. It awaits for the moment when the gate is weak, when memory falters and the shadows rise." In distant villages, elders spoke of Rahim's fate, not as a man, but as a symbol, a warning that some doors must remain closed, some names never spoken. The Labasu was not just a beast, but a hunger for oblivion that tested the very fabric of existence. Desert itself seemed to breathe with quiet menace, a reminder that the ancient evil slumbers beneath the earth, waiting for the curious, the foolish, or the desperate to awaken them. And so the story of Rahim, the lost keeper of the gate, was told around campfires, in hushed tones where flames cast long shadows that dance like forgotten nightmares. Because some stories are more than just tales, they are warnings, and some names once spoken can never be unspoken. The night deepened. The wind carried the faintest growl, a distant echo of a lion's roar. And somewhere beneath the endless sands, the Labasu stirred once more.